Most people believe that knowing how to fix everything is a matter of intelligence. They've simply trained their minds differently. Think about the last time your life suddenly became chaotic. A relationship collapsed. Your finances changed overnight. Your computer crashed before an important deadline. Most people immediately ask, "Why is this happening to me?" But a very small group asks a completely different question: where do I begin? That single difference changes everything. Today you'll discover why some people seem capable of solving almost any problem, not because they're smarter, luckier, or naturally gifted, but because they think in a way that both Stoic philosophy and modern psychology have quietly pointed toward for centuries. And the final lesson may completely change how you face every future obstacle. 1. Problems aren't the enemy. Panic is. The moment something unexpected happens, your brain makes a decision before you're even aware of it. Is this a challenge or a catastrophe? That tiny judgment determines everything that follows. Most people believe they freeze because the problem is too difficult, but psychology tells a different story. Very often, they freeze because their nervous system interprets uncertainty as danger. The body prepares for survival instead of thinking. Heart racing, attention narrowing, creativity disappearing. The Stoics understood this long before neuroscience existed. Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not by events themselves, but by the judgments they make about those events. Two people can face exactly the same crisis. One sees the end, the other sees information. The external reality is identical, the internal interpretation is not. Imagine two drivers hearing an unfamiliar sound from their car. One immediately imagines financial disaster. The other simply wonders, what could be causing that? Notice the difference. One mind closes, the other opens. Curiosity is impossible when panic takes control. And yet curiosity is where every solution begins. But understanding this leads us to something even more surprising. 2. Confidence is built, not born. Have you ever noticed that the people who seem most capable rarely announce how capable they are? They simply begin. Modern psychologist Albert Bandura introduced the concept of self-efficacy, the belief that you can successfully deal with challenges, not because life is easy, because you've survived difficulty before. Every small success leaves evidence. Every obstacle overcome becomes proof. I've figured things out before. I can probably figure this out too. This is why fixing something small matters far more than most people realize. Replacing a broken hinge, learning a new skill, making the uncomfortable phone call you've postponed for weeks. Each experience quietly teaches your brain one profound lesson: my actions matter. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself that obstacles exist, so virtue can be practiced, not avoided. The obstacle isn't interrupting your growth, it is your growth. Perhaps you've experienced this yourself without noticing. Maybe one difficult year permanently changed how you respond to uncertainty. If that's true, let us know in the comments. Sometimes our hardest seasons become our greatest education. But there's another hidden ingredient most people completely overlook. 3. People who solve problems don't need immediate certainty. Most anxiety isn't caused by the problem. It's caused by wanting the answer immediately. We crave certainty. We want guarantees. We want reassurance before taking action. Life rarely offers any of those. The people who solve complex problems have developed a remarkable tolerance for not knowing. They can sit with incomplete information. They don't interpret confusion as failure. They interpret it as part of the process. Imagine assembling thousands of puzzle pieces without seeing the final picture. Most people become frustrated after a few minutes. Others become fascinated. Same puzzle, different mindset. Seneca warned that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Often the greatest source of stress isn't what has happened, it's everything we fear might happen next. Learning to remain calm inside uncertainty may be one of the rarest modern skills, and what comes next explains why some people develop this ability much earlier than others. 4. Your childhood may have taught you how to face chaos. Some people grew up with parents who encouraged experimentation. Mistakes weren't disasters, they were lessons. Those children slowly learned that problems could be explored. Others had a very different experience. Every mistake brought criticism. Failure felt dangerous. Trying something new became emotionally expensive. Psychology suggests these early experiences shape how we approach future challenges. But life isn't always so simple. Some of the most resourceful adults were raised in difficult environments, not because hardship is ideal, but because they had no choice except learning to adapt. They became mechanics of life, fixing, improvising, adjusting, surviving. The danger comes later. Sometimes competence becomes identity. If I stop solving everyone's problems, who am I? Many adults become addicted to being needed, not because they enjoy responsibility, but because usefulness became their source of worth. Maybe you've met someone who simply cannot relax unless they're fixing something. Maybe that's you. If this resonates, consider subscribing to Stoic Archway. These are the kinds of conversations that help us understand ourselves more deeply. But there's an even healthier version of problem solving, one driven not by fear, but by wonder. 5. The most powerful solvers are driven by curiosity. There is a beautiful difference between fixing something because you're afraid and fixing something because you're fascinated. Some people dismantle machines simply to understand them. They ask endless questions. They investigate. They experiment. Failure doesn't embarrass them. It teaches them. These are lifelong learners. The Stoics valued this mindset deeply. Wisdom wasn't about already knowing, it was about remaining teachable. Curiosity transforms frustration into exploration. Instead of saying, "I'm terrible at this," they ask, "What am I missing?" That single question protects the ego from becoming the enemy of learning. And once you begin thinking this way, failure loses much of its power, because every unsuccessful attempt still produces information. But now we arrive at perhaps the most important lesson of all. 6. Your identity follows your actions. Most people wait to feel confident before acting. The evidence suggests the opposite works better. Action creates confidence, not the other way around. Every time you stay with a difficult problem 5 minutes longer, your identity shifts. Every uncomfortable conversation completed, every new skill practiced, every obstacle faced instead of avoided, becomes another vote for the person you're becoming. Kindi, eventually something remarkable happens. You stop seeing yourself as someone waiting to be rescued. You become someone who participates in life, who adapts, who learns, who persists. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every morning that difficulties were inevitable. Preparation, not avoidance, was the path to tranquility. The strongest people aren't those who never struggle. They're the ones who trust themselves enough to keep moving before certainty arrives. And that realization changes everything. Finally, people often admire those who seem capable of fixing everything. But they're usually admiring the wrong thing. It isn't intelligence, it isn't talent, it isn't luck. It's the quiet belief that another step is always possible, that another attempt can be made, that confusion is temporary, that failure contains information. The Stoics never promised an easy life. They promised something far more valuable, a mind that cannot be easily conquered by circumstances. Perhaps that's what true resilience has always been, not eliminating fear. Learning that fear doesn't get to make the decisions anymore. So here's the question I'd like to leave you with. When the next problem appears, will you see a wall or the beginning of understanding? If this video gave you a new perspective, leave a comment telling us which lesson spoke to you most. Subscribe to Stoic Archway for more timeless wisdom rooted in philosophy and modern psychology.